Waking up at 12:14. Talk so much all night that I forget how to be. Making sure that you're okay. Hope it's not too hard when I reply with a light. Lately it's been hard to dream. The story's all messed up and I don't wanna repeat. The excuses we make day after day. Play something that made us an exact day. The way this is might be alright. So maybe we can say goodbye just tonight. I really don't want to fight. I'm trying my best to be polite.
All right, there we go. Facebook fam, YouTube fam, and Life or Death fam. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Hit the one in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me or not. Let me know if you can hear me. I have I bought a new soundboard, and I've hooked it up. I feel like everything is going good with it. I'll be sort of exploring the capabilities of it as as I have these different shows, and you're going to see me slowly expand the show. Thank you. Also, let me know if you can hear me clearly or not, or if anything seems wrong or off with the sound. at all. Give me the okay on that. Yeah, so now that I got my new toy here, I'm gonna be you guys will see. When I get a new toy, I definitely explore and play with it and get as much out of it as I can. So you guys are gonna see me expanding these lives in some very interesting ways. Oh man, I forgot I was gonna send a link to my barber. I told him I was gonna give him a shout out, so I have to give him a shout out on the next one. So how y'all doing? It's been a while. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Sophia. In fact, let me give some shouts here because it's always good to see everybody coming back in. Let's see here. Yeah. No, Adrian, these are not dating tips. Adrian. Adrian, I don't know if Adrian is in here now. She left that early. Holla at your boy if you're in here, Adrian. Sophia, always good to see you. We got the crew coming in here. I think the last time I was on was maybe 2 weeks ago. It was definitely, I think it was the weekend before Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody had a joyous Thanksgiving with your family. I took my daughters up to see my dad, their grandpa, and they had a blast with him. We had a great day. He lives in the Tallahassee area. So it was about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive there and back for me. So I spent between 5 and 6 hours on the road, something like that on Thanksgiving. But it was just a good day for me. So I hope it was the same for y'all. And then it's back to the grind. Back to the grind, and I'm feeling really good about what we're doing with Life or Death, and I'm going to be giving you all a nice update on that as well during this show. I think I went through Ashley, Sophia, and then we had people coming in as well. I just want to give the shouts. It's always good. Just thought you'd stop through. I appreciate it. Vaughn the Great. Vaughn the Great. I'm glad you did. In fact, this will be my first testing right now. Let's see. Oh, not that one. Tell me if you guys can hear that, because I can't hear it. That's some applause for you, Vaughn the Great. Tell me if that came through. Let's see. Going down. And okay, so we got Kiara here already giving us some tips. I'll talk about this. Don't talk about the project until it's done, or the producer gives you the okay too. Absolutely. Now that's after you've been cast and you've been working on it, Kiara. That's after you've been cast. So yeah, I may have to do another whole one on tips of what to do and what not to do after you've been cast in your role. Let's see, going down, just making sure I give everybody the props. Was that applause too loud? Let me know. I need to make sure that I get all my levels right. Yeah, I would show you some of the stuff I have planned, but I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait because I want to add these things. I've already done a lot with this board, and I'm actually excited about some of the things that I can do just to make these broadcasts even more entertaining. We get in here and we have a nice little ball. We really do. All right. Okay. All good. So everything is looking good. All these levels so far. And I see we got Vaughn and Sophia. Sophia, let me know if I made you a mod. I want to go ahead and make you a mod. I feel like I may have, but let's see. I'm going to see if I can do it. I see Patrice. Patrice, did I holler at you? OG Patrice in the house. Okay, so I'm playing around with this. I'm going to wait because I'm not exactly sure if I can make you a mod right off. Oh, okay, cool. Already a mod. That's what's up. Kiara got a question right here. So I have received so many now that I honestly don't remember. I mean, so many. It's easily 300, 300 easily, likely more. So how about this? I will double check. You know, and what's funny is, since we're live, just very quickly, I should be able to pull up my inbox, search for you, and just double check real quick. Okay. Looks like maybe did it come in the name that you have here in the chat? Let's see. So it looks like you okay, so I see that you submitted sort of you did submit through Backstage, Kiara. I see that. However, I have not yet reviewed those latest. No, maybe I have, Kiara. Let me double check. I don't want to speak out of turn. So let me just put it this way. Yes, I have. And just, it's funny. And this is actually good. These post audition tips are going to apply to you here. So good stuff. Good stuff. I do see that you've applied via Backstage. All right. So what I'll do is, just for the heck of it, here real soon, I'll go ahead and just drop the link if anybody wants to come up and say hey. But let's get to the order of the day, which are just giving these tips out. And it sort of, I was inspired to do this, like you see, many of you have already watched the tips that I created for auditioning, and it was quite a few. I believe it was like 9 tips. I'm reading this chat at the same time. I need to focus. You guys got me laughing over here live. Okay, so what you see is I've already created one. I mentioned a while back, maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. I was going to make some tips for people who are auditioning, and because I noticed that I was just seeing a lot of mistakes. And so I made that video. I did it live here. We had a good time with it. Ended up being 2 hours. We're not going to spend that much time here on this one at all. But we just ended up having a really good time talking about the different things that people do in auditions. And what I noticed is that not a lot of people, but a few people were maybe making some. I'm not going to use the word mistakes, but maybe sort of like not moving necessarily in the best possible way after the audition. And I was, I'm going to make a series here of not only tips for things like auditioning, but across the board, tips for actors, beginning actors, possibly intermediate level actors, writers. And really, I'm going to do a series of videos about all aspects of filmmaking and storytelling in general. And it hit me, you know what? This is a good thing to cover now, considering the fact that I'm in the process of casting, and we've had such an extended period of casting that people are getting a little anxious now. They're kind of wondering what's going on, and I haven't been on in maybe 2 weeks now, and I haven't sent anything out to anybody. So, people are kind of wondering what's going on. So this is a good time to actually kind of give you a little bit of a heads up on the way that you should be approaching this part of the process, after you've given your audition, what next stage. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do here. Before I jump in, let me do one more thing here. I'm just going through, kind of acknowledge the chat, because I don't do, as you can see, I don't do that whole 2 things at once thing well. I'm a focused person. So I'll focus on what I'm saying, and then I'll focus on the chat. And I'll focus on what I'm saying, and I'll focus on the chat. So let's focus on the chat for a little bit before we jump in. She stole my thunder. I am doing well. I am doing well. Thanks for being here, and thanks for asking. Casting call. Who's getting the role of playing you in the show? I know, right? That's behind the scenes. We need to do that too. The show of the making of, right? You never know. There's a whole lot of things we can do with it. All right. So let's kind of jump right in. So as you see here, I'll start with this. This show is all about what happens after your audition, what not to do. And what I mean sort of when we say what after the audition, it's, for me, I'm specifically talking about that first audition. When, you know, you've gotten the casting call, you've seen it, you've read it, and maybe you've gotten some information from me, or you've gotten enough information from the casting notice, and you've actually submitted an audition. And in my case, with this one being this whole concept being a little bit new in the way that I'm doing it over YouTube Live, in our case, you know, we had several auditions live, you know, so, you know, we've had this combination of people who at the very beginning, I had 5 shows where we had live auditions, and then I proceeded to continue to accept auditions directly to me after that. So, you know, it's one of these things where you feel like you did a good job on your audition. Maybe you watched my video with the 9 audition tips, came in and delivered something that you felt was good, and that maybe I responded to. But then there's this wait period. You know, what happens? What do you do with this wait time? All right, so let's jump into it. All right, so the first thing I really, really want to kind of stress this and talk a little bit about this in several sub points, if you will. But the first thing is that as someone who is, you know, as talent who's come in to audition for a show, especially one like this, which is kind of basically feature sized, meaning it's so many characters. As you guys know, I have 25 characters that I'm casting for. One thing, and this is kind of maybe a general thing, do not expect a personalized update. And so what I mean by that is, don't, after you have given your audition, don't expect for you to get a call directly from the casting director or anyone from the production telling you, you know, updating you sort of what the status is. Remember, your experience as talent may be that single interaction where you gave your performance, and, you know, like I said, you felt like you did a good job. But you got to understand that on the flip side, on our side, the casting directors are interacting with scores, possibly hundreds of people. And the sheer numbers make it unwise for us to take the time to call you to let you know if you didn't get a role. And so that's a really, really, that's a point that I want to make sure hits home. Like you just heard me say that. For me, like, you know, we just had someone ask me, hey, you know, did you actually get my audition? And I believe so, but I just mentioned how, hey, me personally, and I'm doing this alone, I'm doing this myself, I've reviewed well over 300 auditions. And so, number one, you know, it's kind of tough to just pick out, as you saw, you know, one person when you're just going through, you know, you're seeing the names and you know, they're just kind of scrolling through. But just keep in mind the scope of how busy that makes a casting director. Because not only is the casting director, of course, being there with you and seeing you give your audition and working with you on small things, but, you know, of course, they're working with everyone else, you know, however, if it's 50 people, 60 people, if it's over 100, or whatever the number is, they're interacting with all of these people. And so, just from a perspective standpoint, try to imagine, that being the case where you're having, to go through and, you're trying to do the best that you can with proceeding with the auditions process. Um, Not only is it seeing and conducting the actual audition for everyone, but it's everything that goes into that, setting the dates and times, responding to the individual queries that the different actors and different talent may ask. Um, in my case, with the scheduling of specific times where we went live, I didn't know it, right? I knew it, but you don't really know it until you experience it, how much more complicated I was making the process by scheduling times and making sure that I could, have a time for actors to come in and interact with each other with the callbacks. So all of those things take time, and so the actual audition process is just one that's really, really challenging and just really, really busy. So, without having to go too deep into that, that's one of the smaller reasons why you shouldn't expect a callback. The other thing about callbacks is that, when you kind of think about it, when you have auditions and, you're working with, say, like with me, I'm the casting director and the director, and you're, picking out potential people who, are getting the role. As we all know, nobody wants to disappoint anyone. So, imagine being that person where, let's say I get, like with me, at least let's cap the number at 300. 300 people. And then, I've got 25 roles. So that means 275 people potentially, let's say I'm looking at 4 people for every role. So that's 100. So that's 200 people who will not be invited for a callback or potentially cast for a role. Who wants to be that poor soul who has to go and call all those 200 people and say, "Hi, we we reviewed we reviewed it and we couldn't find a role for you." No one wants to be that bearer of bad news. Again, it's just a time thing as well, calling people just to give them bad news. It's much better across the board, politically, in terms of how you work with people, where, hey, if you don't get a callback, then you haven't, there's not a role that's been found for you. Because sometimes those calls can, depending on the experience of the person that's auditioning, can be very, very challenging, because some people, people in the business, once you understand and you've done this for a while, the part of the name of the game, is actors will tell you, is rejection, meaning they go after audition after audition after audition, and they don't necessarily get a call back. And that's for a lot of different reasons, and none of them have anything to do, or few of them, I'll say, have a whole lot to do with whether or not you're, good, or you could have done something better. It's about all kinds of other things. And I may even talk about some of those at the end of this. So, if you give someone a call and say they didn't get the role and they really want a part, it can turn really, that conversation can turn tenuous, because now it's like, well, why didn't you pick me? And I can do this, and, give me one more chance. And, or do you have, I knew you didn't like, I knew you didn't like me at the audition. You were looking at me funny. You just never know with people sometimes. So, okay, I see Tony Poe's in the house. Nice. So just keep that in mind. Hey, Tony Poe, how you doing? So, keep these kinds of things in mind as well. The bottom line is that the rule of thumb is that, if you are a person who has auditioned and you don't get a callback, then The rule of thumb is that you just haven't been cast. Um, just be patient with that process. Trust me, if you have been cast, you are going to be contacted. You're going to get a call if you have been cast. Now, one thing I will say this: I've had a few situations where and actors will contact you like very, very frequently right off the audition. Maybe the same day, maybe once a day, something like that. So I'm a very laid back person. So if you end up, say emailing me or calling me every day saying, hey, did you am I gonna get cast? I didn't get a call back, because you're all excited. I am someone who's very, very supportive of talent because I understand very well what talent goes through and how they put themselves out there to be a part of something. So for me, I'm gonna be very, just very understanding of, and very patient with you in terms of, hey, just be patient, and then I'll let you know sort of what your steps need to be. But there are casting, when you get into parts of, Hollywood, LA, and maybe even definitely New York, just in general, if you bug a casting director every day, you are risking getting on their actual bad side. Because the rule is, and the understanding is, you've heard the old adage, don't call us, we'll call you. It really is like that in the business. And so you're risking having a casting director avoid you forever if you roll that way with it. So the key thing is just to understand that the norms are that you give your audition, you do your best, and then you wait for a callback. And if you don't get a callback, that means that a role has not been found for you in the show. I will say this: there's nothing wrong with a follow up, maybe say a week and a half, 2 weeks out from your audition, where you can do a call or an email asking, hey, it's been a little while. I came out to the audition. I was just wondering sort of what the status of the show is. Have you cast? How's it going? That is, I think, perfectly acceptable. The key thing is just being, with something like that, you're waiting a little while out, and of course you audition for it. Presumably you definitely wanted to be in the show and be a part of it. So there's nothing wrong at that point when some time has passed of saying, hey, I'm just checking in and seeing how things went. So I would say definitely have at it, but just don't be that person that, calls or emails every day saying, hey, I'm just checking in, did this, did that. It's fine is right. A little bit of that, a little bit of the stalkerism going on. I wouldn't call it, again, there are some people who just flat out say that. Me personally, I know that people are excited. And because of where I am right now, I'm sort of in this mode where I'm now getting back on the horse, focusing back in on my first passion, which of course this is it, filmmaking or storytelling. And because I'm independent, my perspective is that, to always be supportive, and always, respectful of your peers, in this arena, who are basically, we're all coming up together because we're independent. We're not part of the quote unquote system. And, in so many ways, a supportive environment helps all of us, especially in this day and age, for a lot of different reasons. So, I'll never, come at you and be like, hey, you just bothering me, leave me alone. I'll never say that. I'll always kind of try to explain to you what the situation is. All right, good stuff. All right, and I've been actually doing a little bit of reading here as well. Twin, glad you're here, tuning in. Good info, thank you. So moving forward, the next thing is this one: be attentive, responsive, and timely. Be attentive, responsive, and timely. Now, this one is, you kind of wonder what I'm talking about, because in a way you're saying, hey, this is after the audition. So what do you mean by attentive, responsive, and timely? This has to do with if you're one of those who have been selected for a callback opportunity. If you've been selected for a callback, the number one thing is that you really, really should understand and appreciate the opportunity for what it is. And that opportunity meaning, hey, you have now kind of gotten into a step that where you've sort of out competed in a way. I don't quite want to put it like that, but the competition, you've actually gotten to the next step. And that is quite an opportunity. If you've reached that step of being invited for a callback, it means that the director believes that you have the talent, the skills, and the intangibles to possibly inhabit this role, whatever you audition for. And the director has actually envisioned you in this role and now wants to bring you back for a closer look. So understand that when you get to this stage, everything that you do and say is being scrutinized. Everything. Not just your performance or performance-related things. Your general disposition, your attitude, your timeliness, and your ability and willingness to cooperate are just among some of the things. That's how I would say most casting directors are doing the exact same. This is what I'm doing. And it's because I'm trying to evaluate a number of things about this person now who I am contemplating entering into a very close working relationship with. When you're working together, actor with director, and you're creating something together, and not just with the director and the actor, but with a group of actors, you really are inviting someone who you've never met, a stranger, into some intimate spaces with you in order to create something together, synergize, kind of create something that neither one of you can do alone or the group can do alone, but you come together and you're putting something together that's greater than the sum of your individual parts. And for me, I take it very seriously. I'm trying every single time to create something great, create something that's lasting. And so, you have to not only evaluate the talent of the individual and whether or not they have the skill and whether or not you can really see them inhabit the role, but it's all these other things. So, for example, if you're surly, if you have a general surly disposition, you kind of quiet all the time, mean, mugging people everywhere, and that's gonna be something that I'm going to take note of. Your timeliness. If I invite you for a callback and for some reason you didn't respond to the invite, or it took you a long time to reply to that email, or if you don't reply to the email and you actually miss the callback, or if you do reply to the email and you're late to the callback, these are things that I'm going to pay attention to, because for me as a director, I'm saying, okay, well, if this person is, having a certain, say, issue with timeliness, or, if they're being a certain way with responsiveness, I'm evaluating, hey, this is someone who I'm potentially going to have a working relationship with. And so if they're going to be this way while they are super excited about and competing to get the role, then this is what, I'm likely going to see if I cast them, let's say if it's a timeliness thing, or it could even degrade from there. Like, this might be their best step. We all put our best feet forward. We always show and present our best selves. And so if your best self is, somehow slow on the email responses, or late to callbacks or something like that, then of course that's not reflecting well on you. So there's that. If you're argumentative, if you're just naturally someone who kind of has something, a response, like if a director or someone else says something to you and you got to say something back, just argumentative. Most people aren't necessarily argumentative to be negative. They just naturally have something to say, all the time. And depending on, that can be something that has the potential to veer, to make a collection of individuals, kind of careen off into another way, and so, if you are one of those types of people, then I'm going to take note, and it's not judging, it's just evaluating. It's not, because there are all kinds of different people, and we are who we are, and we definitely should always be our authentic selves at all times. But it's about evaluating, okay, these are the things, these are the intangibles, these are the things that I'm noting about this talent that I'm potentially thinking about working with. If you exhibit an inability to be a team player, and we can pick up on that early on, that's something else that's being taken into effect either. Or if you exhibit sort of an unusual ability to be a team player, that's all also noted as well. I'm going to stop here because I get lost in my thought and go to the chat and see if anybody's asking anything here. Oh, okay, so far so good. We got an attentive audience. Very nice. So when I say team player, what do I mean? Because we kind of have a general understanding of, okay, what's a team? I'm a team player. I know I can play nice in the sandbox. I know how to get along with people. What do you mean when you say a team player? So filmmaking or storytelling, or sort of what we're doing now, which is a theatrical type of performance, any of these as we know, are collaborative endeavors. And so we are building and creating a team. And so as someone who's a leader of the team, we need to make sure that the team can function cohesively in order to, you got to be able to envision and see yourself getting to the goal. In this case, it's doing this work, coming together and creating something that we all can be proud of. But if we have someone on the team who is not, doesn't have the disposition of knowing what their role is and then staying in their role, they can mean well, absolutely well. They want to help the team. They want to see everyone win. They want to see us win. They want to see us succeed. And they are doing what they feel like they should be doing in order to help the team. But if they don't know their role and they don't understand to keep their lane, then they can unwittingly derail us. So an example of this would be, let's say we're working on lines and you have one actor who is making suggestions to another actor about something like, okay, well, you can say your line this way, or you can say different, how about saying this line, say this instead, unprompted from the director, or, just, or maybe even, thinking that that part of it is really, really collaborative. Maybe even the director is saying something, but, the other actor or the group doesn't know sort of what those limits are. That would be a case where everybody wants to help. Everybody's really trying to chip in, but they are not staying in their lane. They don't necessarily know, they're not staying in their roles. It is a director's job to take ownership of the story. And, in most competent directors' cases, they fully understand where they're going. And, in my case, someone who is, the writer, I'm an independent filmmaker, and I typically write and direct my own projects. So you've got someone who's written the piece and is now directing it. And, in my case, with the understanding that I have of really every aspect of it, one of the last things, this is funny too, because I'll smile. One of the last things that that someone like me wants to have to deal with is another actor coming in and, again, good nature. Do it like this, say it like this, or try these lines or whatever. That's the last thing that someone like me wants to hear, because remember the flip side. You're someone who's now being, say, exposed to those lines, the script, for the first time. You're reading it and you're going kind of about your instincts. But in my case, you're dealing with someone who first of all, has taken years to study the craft of writing. Then, after that, wrote, spent months, agonizing over, the actual story, having, sort of taking and putting into context everything, where it needs to happen, why it needs to happen. You've got your full story arcs, character arcs, your plot development, your setups, payoffs, all kinds of things that, someone coming in who's just, say, reading a script or watching a movie is just not thinking about. And so there are very specific reasons why a certain piece of dialogue is what it is. And I'm extremely meticulous. Like, I sweat over every word. We talked about when we were doing our callbacks, me directing and giving things kind of on a beat by beat basis, because there are things happening within a scene, within the arc of a scene, that are actually affecting stuff that, that might be something that happens in Act 1. And what's going on there is having a direct effect. It's really feather-like, but it's having a direct effect on something that comes up in the end of Act 2 or the beginning of Act 3. And so, so when it comes to, you're casting people who, again, they mean well and they want to do well, it's like, okay, are you a little bit too eager to jump around, and help out? Now, in this particular case, this is one thing where we are going to be focused on just the performances. So, this isn't a full filmmaking thing where you can be on set and you've got crew members talking to actors, or you've got, the first AD, wanting to interact somehow with someone in the camera department, or the gaffer is, doing something with, someone else from another whole department, in the art department. So, it's not one of these situations, but you really have to make sure that, as the leader of your unit, whoever is in leadership, producer, director, whoever it is, puts together a team who has the understanding of how something like that can negatively impact where you want to go as a team. Because all it takes, people are people. And if someone is sincerely trying to help and you tell them to go keep your lane and you don't pay attention to how, the EQ side of it, doing it in just the right way that someone doesn't feel ostracized, or maybe they lose face on set or something like that. You just never know how someone could take it and end up just accidentally poisoning where you want to go as a team. So, someone like me, I'm paying attention to all of that. What are these potential personalities that I'm bringing in? And are they a little bit too eager to jump in and offer this and offer that? Those kinds of things are also being taken into account. And it's not saying that one thing or another is going to disqualify you or particularly qualify you in some way, but it's for me, it's making sure that I consider everything as I put our team together. And most casting directors or directors are doing a similar thing. All right, so we're looking at those things. Can you be a team player? That's what we mean. That's what we mean by it. It's more than just coming and saying and being happy-go-lucky and jolly and, yeah, I can do it. I'm glad to be here and I'm gonna give it all of my performance. It's more than that. It's more than that. All right, so now I'm gonna go here. Let's see here. Twin production. Yes. Input is good, but never tell somebody how to work their craft in a pushy manner. Yep. Twin is 100%. Looks like Twin has some experience in that as well. Good advice. Tony, yeah, Tony. So, Tony, are you live right now? Because this seems I might be late, and that looked like this just popped up, and I gave you a shout a while ago, Tony. So, are you live with us right now? Let's see, Ashley. Good advice, indeed, because a person has to know what they're doing wrong in order to improve. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, looks like you guys are talking some other things, but absolutely. And so, and again, because we are in, I am in this independent environment, and we're just dealing with a lot of people who just haven't had a whole lot of experience with the way, the protocols, kind of the standard protocols of what filmmaking, and I'm talking filmmaking because I'm a filmmaker, but storytelling in this collaborative way is all about. You just don't have that experience, so you just come in and you kind of, you fit in, get in when you fit in, and you take it as it comes. And if someone doesn't take the time to really support you as you're learning and getting experience, then it's easy. There's some people who are not as attentive. There are people who have very particular skill sets in certain aspects of leadership when it comes to filmmaking, and there are some people who are not inclined to. They don't care how you feel about, if they tell you that you're, maybe stepping over a line or out of order on something. They don't get. They're just gonna tell you how it is, and you're gonna deal with it how it is, and if you don't like it, they'll just get rid of you. Some people have that attitude. I kind of have I have a very collaborative attitude about what we're doing, because I think that that's the best way to get the absolute best out of the team that you're working with. All right, so let me go to the last tip. The last tip, and thank y'all. This is good stuff. Y'all are rolling with me. Oh, let's see, real quick here. So many lives going on. We'll be going live myself in 45 minutes. Okay, Thunder, I might try to jump in. Now, it's so funny you say that. This is a live. I wanted to put out these tips. And then I am doing another live on my main Talk with Frank Gooden channel alone. Right now, I'm running on both channels, Talk with Frank Gooden and Life or Death. But yeah, I'm doing another live about the power of storytelling and why I became a filmmaker. Right after this one, right at 9:30. So yeah, it is what it is, right? If people don't catch it live, you can always catch it on the replay. So that's the real cool thing about it. All right. So my last tip here for me to talk about, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about exactly what I'm doing with Life or Death, where I am with it, is don't discuss specific details about compensation until you've actually been cast. And I won't spend a whole lot of time with this one because it's kind of a no-brainer. It is appropriate. It's absolutely appropriate to ask general questions about compensation prior to the first audition. For obvious reasons, you want to, it's very necessary to know going in whether or not is this going to be a paid production. If it is going to be a paid production, what's the pay range? Is it going to be kind of a low pay situation? Is it going to be more of a standard pay situation? It's definitely 100% appropriate to get a lay of the land on that before the first audition. But after the first audition, and even after a callback, you have not been cast. So then it becomes presumptuous to ask about the details of pay before you're cast, because obviously you haven't been offered a role. So, while you're in callbacks, just imagine, you're in callbacks, and, at the end of it, okay, so what's the situation now? What's the pay structure? Is it going to be this per day and how many days and all that? If you do that before you've actually been offered a role, then it runs the risk of turning the director off on you, because no director wants it to be simply about the money for you. Directors want you to be passionate about the role. I think we all have seen and we know what it looks like when, even A-list actors have taken a part just because it was a big payday. I can tell you what, I can see it very clearly that the actor, where any actor is mailing in their performance. They're not passionate about it. They're coming in and they're doing basically the bare minimum, but it's very, very clear that they are not throwing themselves into the role. And as someone who is, takes what I do very, very seriously with filmmaking or storytelling, I mean, personally, I don't, you want somebody who you feel like really, really, really wants to do everything they can to do the best that they can with the performance. And so if they start asking about the pay structure before they've even been cast, then it's like, oh, okay, is that why? What's the real reason why you're interested in the role? Because having experience and vision, I can see a mile away what happens if I cast someone who is asking those kinds of questions before they've even been offered a part. Now, I would say that after, definitely, a part is being offered to you, that's the time to go ahead and get all the details in, all the specifics. Ashley is asking, will I be taking questions? Yes. So you can type them or you can come up and have a conversation. I'm at the end of this now. I'm at the tail end. So I'll go ahead and drop the StreamYard link if you want to call in and come on up. That's cool too. And then so for me too, I'm, as an independent filmmaker, I am particularly sensitive to it, or at least I won't say the word sensitive, but just aware of it, because I understand where I am right now. I'm, like I mentioned, I'm in this rebuilding phase. My in terms of filmmaking and what I do, I have taken basically kind of a 10-year hiatus from creative filmmaking, really diving in and doing things that I find to be edifying in terms of storytelling. It's been about 10 years. And I'm jumping back in now. And this is going to be the way that I launch it and get back on it. And so because of that, this rebuilding and kind of establishing who I am and what I do in this space, at the beginning here, I know that I don't have a high budget. I do have a budget, but I know that my budget is low. So it's like, because you have a low budget, if you're not going to be able to afford it. Some people, you're just not going to be able to afford it. Some people, it is what it is. But I definitely want to make sure that the people who I can afford, who are going to work with me on this, are all in on their performance, all in on the characters. So, on this one, this has a particular, particularly interested in this one as well. But it's just good general advice anyway. And it almost seems like obvious advice, but I've had this happen on this show actually. And, and it's cool, no hard feelings or, no particular thing, but it's like, if you want to work out the details and get all those things out, first show that you are 100% at least interested in the part. And that's cool. Some people might be doing it only for the money, and that's cool. Absolutely do it just for the money. I just have the experience to understand where that most of the time typically leads, as it relates to performance. All right. So Ashley is kind of speaking on this. They were lacking the emotional connection to the character. That's right. That's what happens often. Now, there's some people who kind of can rise above it and be all good, but it's, I would say maybe it's 50-50. Some people can ask about these things and still get all the way in once they feel comfortable with whatever the payment structure is. And then some people, once they either kind of commit and then, some small thing happens that goes wrong, like, well, I'm out. I was only doing this for this anyway. And, it's not that important to me anyway. So, it could be one of those type things. We got Gail at night in the house. So honored always to have you here as well. Thank you for joining us. So I would say that, kind of very simply, Those are the three things that you should be thinking about in terms of what not to do after your audition. Don't expect a personalized update. Basically, here, be attentive, responsive, and timely. Don't be inattentive, or don't be late. Um, and definitely don't show any tendencies that you will be hard to work with, if you were to be cast in the show. Definitely always be prepared to kind of bring your A game at all times. Especially once the light has now been shined on you and you've been invited for a callback, and you've got someone like me, you have my full attention at that point, full attention, and the full attention from an INTJ, you are being scrutinized. And then last, don't discuss specific details about compensation until you've actually been cast. All right, so that's a good one. Oh, well, okay here. So this is news. I'm gonna have to check this out. I haven't seen this. I've been grinding. Gail at Night has an intro. Okay. So thanks for sharing that, Gail. So at this point, if anybody has any specific questions, you can either type them in the chat, all good, or you can use the link and call up. If you kind of want to talk about any of this, then that's fine. While we do that, I'll just kind of let you know where I am. So with Life or Death, I'm at the tail end now because the casting notices are up. I am still getting, people who are actually sending auditions directly to me, and so I still will consider them. But I am far along the path of casting, and as you might imagine, I'm being very, I'm being as thorough and considerate as I can as I make these decisions. So I'm just looking at a lot of different things. And as I said, we said it a whole bunch of times during callbacks, you guys are making it hard on me as well. You should. And these decisions are tough ones because you've got a lot of talented people who are applying for these. And, the objective here is to try to make something it kind of goes without saying that you want to do the best that you can. My objective with anything that I produce is to really try to make something that stands up to scrutiny, in terms of the storytelling, something that that people can be inspired by and influenced by as soon as it's over, the next year, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. And so you take it really, really serious. These kinds of decisions where you really, really want to make sure, okay, I have, in terms of the process that's been followed, you want to do the best that you can for the production. Everybody coming in and creating something that is it's great as it can possibly be. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of contemplation and really being really, really thorough about the decisions. And then, I've got a lot of people here who I am, you don't want to give anybody disappointing news of saying, oh man, you didn't get a part for this or that or whatever. And so you've got that side of it too, that you kind of weighing. Now, ultimately, I think everybody understands that, hey, everybody's not going to necessarily be given a role, but I'm so cool with so many of us, and somebody's not going to get a role, and it's going to be like, man, but here's the thing on that. I'm not stopping, as you guys know, and so there will always be future opportunities for things that I'm doing, and I definitely have plans. If this goes like I hope and think it will be, then I definitely have plans for a number of things. So, it's just one opportunity of many coming down the line. So that's where I am. I'm casting. This is December 3rd, and I will likely create. I'll put it this way. I'll just say I know I'm inside 2 weeks. It's really probably well inside 2 weeks from making the final decisions. So just know that's not, just because you haven't heard from me doesn't mean that I'm not doing my due diligence in making the casting decisions. All right, looks like I missed a question here. So I'm going on. It says you missed my question, and then Ashley has a question. So Vaughn, retype that question. Well, how about this? If you did it, I'm gonna scroll and see. Here we go. All right, thanks, Vaughn. Question: should one only read the lines the way they are written, and is it improper to ad lib? Should one ever ad lib? Great question. So in general, I'm going to give you kind of the general answer. The general answer is you should stay with what is on the paper. Because typically, for any serious production, that screenplay has been written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. It's not at all uncommon to have a screenplay 4, 5, 6 drafts in. So, so when you are auditioning, you do want to respect that and try your best to deliver on those lines, because they're really the people who are evaluating whether or not you're going to be a fit are evaluating how you can bring those lines to life. I can spot. I'm pretty good. I'll just say that, at being able to see whether, like, how you inhabit the characters and how you can live in the lines. So me personally, I tend to be a little more lenient with whether or not you actually hit the lines exactly as written. I am collaborative by nature, so I like it when people try to bring something of themselves, because to me that's what it's all about. That's all you're doing here. When you're ad-libbing, you're simply seeking, to the best of your understanding, to inhabit the character through your vessel. Your vessel is your body, your personality, your point of view, your mannerisms. And so when people ad lib, all they're trying to do is just bring themselves to the line, to the role. And so I'm usually very understanding of that. You've seen me where sometimes I'll say I'm cool with it and I'll embrace it, and then there might be a time or two where I say no, let's stick to the lines on this one. So in general, yeah, it's when you are auditioning, you should stick with the lines. If you're good with that living and you feel confident in it, then you might give it a try and then see what the director says. Okay. So great question when it comes to just auditioning in general. All right, let's see. Ashley, what is some advice you would give to someone having trouble connecting to a character? If you are having trouble connecting to a character, I think you would have to define for me what you mean by trouble connecting to a character. So I think I can try to answer that in a general sense. If you're having trouble this is kind of general now. If you're having trouble connecting to a character, then you need to reevaluate whether you should be playing that character, whether or not you want to audition for that character. Because only really experienced actors, experienced talent, people who've been doing it a long time, understand the nuances that make up what a performance is, can successfully overcome sort of a natural predisposition away from a particular character. If you're new to acting in general and you don't have a lot of experience, and let's say you didn't go to an acting school, a credible acting school somewhere, and you have trouble connecting to the character, then your best bet is to stay away from that character. Like, don't try to do it, because it takes skill to overcome a natural disconnect to a character. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm going to be showing, you guys have probably seen my updates. I'm going to be showing Love Trap live, a live showing with me. We're going to watch Love Trap, and it's going to be fun. We're going to kind of have a director's commentary. I want to have a whole group of us up here and, reacting, and we'll be pausing it from time to time. And I bring up Love Trap because, that's an independent feature film cast here in Jacksonville, Florida. That's the landscape that you see behind me. And as you might imagine, it's not like, there's not like a whole lot of just practice talent here in Jacksonville. So I had to really pay attention to who I cast, whether or not they had a very natural ability to connect with whatever the character, it is, what was required of the character. And there was no way I would cast someone who was just having trouble connecting to the character. All right, Ashley. So I think that's the best way to answer that question. Thanks for asking that. Really good question right there. Really good question. Fun. You're welcome, bro. Let's see here. I'm just going through now. Yeah, Ashley, as I was speaking, this is what we were talking about. Okay. Okay, so are you guys are y'all switching? What's happening? You're not being able to see certain things because you're switching. I'm streaming on both channels, and so maybe let me know if that's a bad idea, because I'm sending this stream out to both Talk with Frank Gooden and Life or Death, and if that's causing trouble somehow, let me know. Like, just let me know if somehow you aren't being able to see everything, or if it's giving you trouble. Because if it is, then I'll stop doing that. I'm sitting here thinking I'll go ahead and get it out to both channels, and maybe there's some people on one channel who can see it. They might miss it if I only do one channel, and this is something that I think affects both channels. So let me stream it to both. But if it's causing you guys trouble, let me know. All right. Any other general questions? So that's where I'm with Life or Death. I'm looking forward to it, guys. We are gonna definitely, Life or Death is gonna be something serious. So I'm getting close to that. I will go ahead and mention that on tomorrow night on Talk with Frank Gooden, I am streaming. I'm gonna do, it's almost kind of maybe like a little mini marathon, because Love Trap is an hour and 45 minutes, but the stream itself is going to go much longer than that, because I'm going to be pausing. We're going to be talking about things, reacting to certain things, explaining certain things, getting people's reactions. And then probably when it's over, having a nice little discussion, because there are some very, very interesting things. Love Trap, I made Love Trap 16 years ago. And because of what's happening now with relationships, we are getting a chance to look at some things through a different lens here, 16 years later. And it's very interesting, some of the insights that I think we can pull out now that just simply were not existent back when I made the film. So I'm looking forward to it. Come tomorrow night. That's going to be, I'll go ahead and put the time. I think I put 9:30 p.m. Eastern is when I'm going to get us started. And, spread the word, get some popcorn ready. We're going to have fun. I'm going to be doing a little bit of advertising all over, trying to get people to come in so that we can have a nice little crowd. And so, if you're not doing anything on a Saturday night, we definitely want you to come through and catch Love Trap, watch it with the director. Let's see. I'm going here, just making sure. Okay, just thanking for the good tips. You are welcome. You are welcome. Yeah, and welcome. I mean, I'm seeing some of you for the first time, so just welcome. Please subscribe to both channels if you can, and just join the fam. We got a nice little family really on both channels, and feel free to look at some of the previous content, or all of it if you're really into it. and stay tuned because I'm continuing. I'm simply going to expand. Now I am doing kind of a legitimate pivot towards filmmaking and all things related to life or death, the next project, and then filmmaking in general. I am pivoting, kind of slowly that. Now I'll still continue to talk about relevant things on Talk with Frank Gooden as I have time, but I'm very committed. It's, everybody knows here I'm very serious about making sure that I maximize the potential, the very, very, very legitimate potential for life or death. All right. So later tomorrow, can't wait to see the finished product. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. Thank you, and we're just getting started, Vaughn. So this is the grind, and I'm so glad that you all. And this is part of what it is. This part is the grind part. You have something, you worked really hard on it, and now we're coming together to try to pool our talents to make something that has impact on people, and that can have a lasting impact, and just do the best that we can. And so this is the grind, this is how we do it, and so we embrace it. And I'm doing this live so everybody can see the work and see what's involved with it. And so thank you for your support. Thank you for pushing forward. Let's see. I know it's not good to change a person's lines altogether, but is it okay to add a word here or there and try to fuse with the character and the part? Mike Vincent, what's happening? Absolutely, yes. And it's cool to seek to do that. See, so as an actor, that's your job, is what you're talking about here, to try and fuse with the character and the part. The way that you put that at the end, that's your job as the talent. And so it's absolutely fine to do really what comes natural to you, and everything that comes natural to you, to try to do that. Simply trust the director. Any sure-minded director who has done their work and knows what's happening with the story and where it's going and why the characters and really everything that's happening, they're going to give you the leave when it's appropriate, and then they're gonna focus you on something else if it appears back to where the vision is, if there's something that you're doing that potentially takes us in a different direction. So feel free to experiment. That's what it's all about. That really is what it's all about. But just trust your director. Just trust your director. It's funny, that little part right there. Let me mention that before I let us go. Filmmaking is a director's medium. Stage is more of an actor's medium. Filmmaking and storytelling in this way is the director's medium, because it's the director who really has the full and complete understanding of why everything is happening. And when an actor is in that pocket and it's really, really inhabiting the character, they don't have the ability to see themselves in their performance. Often, especially when we talk about filmmaking, there are things about what the camera is doing, the way it's positioned, whether or not it's a wide shot or a close up or anything in between, and things that are going on with the camera, and really with everything else, depending on what's happening around the actor, that the director sees and should fully understand that the actor who is in the moment inhabiting a character cannot even be cognizant of. So this is that medium where actors pray for a director who understands what, kind of what they say the actor's director is, who understands, what they're doing, because they can't evaluate themselves. They have to trust what the director is seeing. And so be sure you've got to do it. You know, there are a lot of times with A-list actors with no, with some directors, I'm not trusting the director. The director's gonna let me go and I'm gonna do my scene work on my own. I'm gonna do my character study on my own. I'm gonna bring this. And there are many Hollywood directors whose talents lie more in the technical side, you know, special effects or practical effects or visual directors who are absolutely immense talents visually, and who are simply less talented and less inclined to, you know, work with actors for their performances. And so a lot of times, many times, actors have to try to take ownership as much as they can. But this is one of those fields where an actor can only take so much ownership because they are not cognizant, and they can't be, if they're fully inhabiting their role, you can't be cognizant of how their performance is coming off. An actor can think that they are doing one thing, and on the camera, they're doing something else. so trust your director. That's the bottom line. I got kind of talky on that one. I got kind of wordy on that one. So I'm going through. Gail, Vaughn, thank y'all so much. Let's see. Kiara, whether I make the cut or not, I'm excited to see the finished product. I love creativity. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Same here. Absolutely same here. Because we all win, you know, and whether or not someone gets in a particular project or not, there's always opportunities to find projects that you will get in. And I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to be talking about, okay, well, what happens when you really, let's say you just don't feel like you get into enough projects, you start writing your own. And I'm going to talk to us about that because I think it's really important. It'll be another stream. It's really important for us to begin to be the authors of things that we want to see ourselves in. You know, so eventually I would like to create my own piece. You're right there with me, Kiara. I used to write stories on my very first laptop in the 90s. There you go. And so embrace that is what I'm going to say. Embrace it. And we're entering into a time where more and more people are doing it. And so more and more of us should be doing this, especially with the way we're gaining more and more control over how we can tell our stories and put them out. It's not where we want to be, but control of distribution, we have more distribution options than we've ever had in the past. I'll put it that way. All right. Okay, guys. So like I mentioned, I've got another stream. I'm doing these back to back. It's going to start in 10 minutes. We have covered this one, and I've gotten a chance to talk about a little bit about life or death. And, you know, I'm going to plug in what we're going to do with Love Trap tomorrow. So I am going to go ahead and bring this one to a close. Got a chance to answer some questions as well. Thank you guys for rolling with me. We have been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes. It flies by so fast. Maybe because I can get wordy on some of my stuff, so I got to work on that. But yeah, let's go ahead and bring this one to a close. I invite you. We got, just like Thunder was saying, we got a lot of live streams going on at the same time. I invite you to join this next one because I am definitely going to go into a number of things that I consider to be really important about becoming a filmmaker, why I became a filmmaker, the power of filmmaking and stories in general, and a little bit into sort of why we should be doing more of this kind of thing. So I invite you to join me there. It's going to be on Talk with Frank Gooden. I'll go ahead and end this one and then invite you guys back. You know how I like to do, bring my outro back up and say some nice things as we take us out. And I will see you all in just a few minutes. Thank you and have a good evening.